Welcome to another episode on Beyond Capable. This is your host, Eric Trinidad. And with me today is Craig Soubliere.
Yes. How you doing, Eric?
Good. Craig and I knew each other for almost a year or so.
Yeah. At the academy we met.
Yeah, your kids go there and you as well sometimes.
Yes, I was going quite a bit, but at 52 and the injuries that I have, and I also compete at professional arm wrestling, so it's kind of hard to balance both of them. So, but my whole goal was to get my kids involved, and 2 out of the 3 really love Jiu-Jitsu, and it's been an amazing experience. So I'm really excited about the future for them.
No, they're great. So given the fact that your kids were there, we had a chance to talk about a little bit about my background and your background, and given what I heard, I thought it would be a good fit for the podcast.
Yeah,
So,
I agree, man. We had a good vibe, and I think we have a lot in common with life and the journey. And now we're at a stage where we're, trying to be good influences, positivity. I love what you're doing with your show. It's amazing, and it's an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No, thanks for coming. I was really excited. Like I said, I saw you on YouTube, from your own channel that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a little bit of your background and a little bit we shared on conversation. So in saying that, let's start a little bit, not from the beginning, but let's say when the point in your life where you thought everything was going a little bit like on the wrong path. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Canada. I grew up I grew up all over Canada. I went to like 13 different schools growing up. So, I suffered from a lot of anxiety because of that, always being the new kid. But, my life really, really got changed when my parents got divorced. When I was 6, I was adopted. And my parents were, my dad was a severe alcoholic and addict. And, my mom, same thing, and, I think she had some mental health issues too, probably that might have not been diagnosed because, in the 70s, you just dismiss people's behaviors and stuff. But, and also, now that I'm older, the trauma of being with an alcoholic, your spouse is an addict. It's hard to, cope with that. So basically, we moved to the Valley when I was 6, and, I'd see my dad periodically, I think it was every month or so.
Okay.
But I grew up with a lot of violence, a lot of drinking, a lot of life-threatening stuff. And, I feel like seeing that at a young age, it always made me very afraid. I always had anxiety. And, my mom, she, was single, she really never had a education, so she was always kind of dependent on a man,
Okay.
and we were on like welfare for a little bit, child support, whatever, but my mom never worked. And she passed away a year ago on Mother's Day, and we never really had a good relationship because of just my upbringing. But what I did realize is later on in life that people are trying to do the best they can do, you know what I mean? Yeah. So at this point now, I don't have any resentments towards that way I grew up, because I realized people were just trying to, do the best job. So, just my mom was with a lot of different, boyfriends. They were abusive, physically. Had a few, molestations when I was younger as well that, really traumatized me, of course. I just always was a loner. Like I was just, just an odd kid because I just had all this anxiety. So, at a young age, I started drinking alcohol when I was 11. And I kind of just like had, I just got really drunk and got really sick too. And it's funny because we had this kind of, we call it swish in Canada, but you're more familiar with like moonshine or whatever here. But so we drank this with some orange soda and got really sick. And I could never drink orange soda again, but I could drink alcohol. You know what I mean?
You were 11.
And I was 11, yeah. So I was riding my bike home one day and I ended up putting my foot through the front tire and flipping it over and smashing my face and just, bad experience totally with alcohol, but it just created this monster, and I just knew that I liked that escape, And it was one of those things that I tried to do almost every weekend.
You're numbing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then I, was able to acquire some weights and a little, like a garage shed that we had. We're in this trailer park that I lived in. And I started working out, so that kind of started building some confidence a little bit.
And how old were you when you started doing that?
I was 11.
So you started working out?
Yeah, it was like around the same time I just kind of was like hanging out with older people and started working out. Was drinking. And but the working out really helped me develop a physique. I was getting stronger. And, people were noticing that, and I was getting like a little bit more respect from like, going into middle school. I just fit in a lot more because I had, something different from everybody else. Yeah. And I think people just didn't have the discipline to do that. Mm-hmm. And true. I think I learned that right from the beginning, that I really liked to train, and it was an escape for me, but so was drinking. So the combination of two, you're not really helping, you know what I mean? But when you're a kid, you can, eat whatever you want and drink and still make pretty good gains. And, so that was basically, up until high school. Okay. I was just, moved around to many different high schools, but kind of always came back to the same town. It was called Sackville, which was a small community in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that's basically where I kind of had some root friends, but like all my life I have this motto. It's called "Don't be a victim of your story." Yeah. And it's because I was a victim all my life of my story, because I always had an excuse. So boo-hoo me. Yeah. This is what happened to me. And it just carried on for a long period of time into my adulthood, which, it's kind of embarrassing, but I feel like people, will learn from my experience and save themselves some years. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be 46 and realize, hey, man, I need to get my shit together and get out of my own way.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's too late. But I want to go back to something that you said. So you were jumping around schools a lot. What was that?
Well, my mom would meet a new man, and she would move in with him, and wherever that community, and they would want to move, or the guy's living single, and then he's got a girl now with a kid, so he's got to get a house now or whatever. So just constantly jumping around, and just constantly, and sometimes going back and forth. Like maybe I wasn't at this school for 2 years, and then I come back in high school. I was there for elementary, and then I come back. So it was just a lot of zigging and zagging. Wow. And the problem with me is like my last name Soubliere. It was kind of like a difficult name to kind of pronounce. So teachers would embarrassingly, and when you're a kid, it's just and you're the new kid and you're goofy.
Yeah, people, you.
Yeah, you just think everybody's like doesn't like you, and you're trying so hard to because you're not getting that love at home, and and
that doesn't help.
Yeah,
doesn't really help. So now you're in high school. So post high school, you mentioned that before. I mean, I heard about that you were a bodybuilder for almost like 25 years.
Yeah, so I started training when I was 11, and I got really. It's funny, like I started training and I was getting strong, and then we have this winter carnival every year, and I would do this arm wrestling event, and I really fell in love with arm wrestling. And then I went to a tournament competing against this like adults, because I was still like 16.
Okay.
And they crushed me, of course, and then I kind of was like, and then one day my friend showed me the movie Pumping Iron, and I fell in love with that kind of look with Arnold and the whole physique, and I was like, I really want to look like that, because I really didn't look still like I worked out. I kind of had that fatty kind of, when you're young, it's hard to kind of build muscle. And but once I started getting the diet down pat and really focusing on training and joining a gym and stuff, I really fell in love with bodybuilding, and I did my first competition when I was 16. Okay. And I ended up placing second place to a guy that was kind of fat. Like, everybody said, and that's the thing with bodybuilding. Everybody goes, you got ripped off. That guy was not in shape or whatever. But now that I look back at my career, I never had a good structure for bodybuilding. I didn't have a tiny waist with these broad shoulders and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I had muscle and I could get in shape, but it just didn't flow together like a Dexter Jackson, or if you're familiar with any types of bodybuilding like Phil Heath, those guys that flow, muscle bellies. It's just,
Yeah.
I just didn't have that. And I would always lose to guys like that. They'd show up some kid. I'd be like, man,
You're
I died
16.
in 20 years or 20 weeks. And yeah, but at 16, yeah, it's a little different. But
Yeah. No, but I mean, what I mean is that it's incredible the fact that you were 16 and doing it against all these people.
yeah, I think it was an escape for me. You know what I'm saying? Like and later on, I figure out that I have an eating disorder, with food. I have a bad relationship with food. So I would diet to get ripped because I wanted to look a certain way. And then 2 weeks later, I'd be fat again, because I just didn't have the discipline. But if I was dieting for a show, I could get in shape.
Or
So
you was a stress eat or just a...
I just anxiety eater probably. I feel like, I think it's being the addict, like you're always looking forward to something. Like on the weekends, I'm always thinking, I get to have pizza Friday night. You know what I'm saying? Like before it was like, drugs and stuff and wild evenings. But now it's, I got to tame the eating because, that's really important too. But, I have that better under control now, of course. But when you're younger, you're not, And plus, like I was still kind of partying. Like I would give my all to a show for 20 weeks and wouldn't do anything bad. And then I'd go off the deep end for the rest of the year.
I mean, it's you think about it, you're depriving yourself for things that you actually like.
Yeah.
So when you can have them and not have any consequences, then you just kind of splurge.
Yeah, so I feel like it's like I am the type of guy that is all or nothing. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Like, it's just as soon as I join something, I'm just all about it. And I'm obsessed with it. So, but sometimes that can be a downfall, like you said, with the eating, you're yo-yoing the diet and you're not able to kind of indulge like with moderation.
Yeah.
That kind of goes out the window
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. So now you're in the bodybuilding cycle, and so you're in adulthood now. So you mentioned before you were a trainer.
Yes.
So let's go from there.
Yeah. So when I was 18, I had a pretty good physique, and some people with that were into real estate had like really good careers. They were like, "Hey, I'll pay you to train me," and I kind of just fell into training people. But I really studied because back in the day, like we didn't have YouTube or I didn't have a phone. I was reading Muscle Mags and Iron Man magazine and Muscular Development, Flex. All the magazines. I had them every month. I was reading them cover to cover. I knew all the exercises. I knew how the body broke down, what supplements people were taking, and so I love sharing that knowledge. So yeah, I got training people, started doing that periodically, and in Canada, and I met my first wife, and she's a young girl. She just graduated, became a teacher, and she wanted to go teach. So I ended up moving with her.
How old were you?
I was 22. Okay. So I moved out there with her, and she was teaching, and she got paid isolation pay because it was pretty up north in Saskatchewan, which is like the prairie provinces is really like secluded, nothing going on there. So they were paying her a little extra money and stuff. But I went up there with her, and she ended up banging the whole town basically. So and some students. So that was really rough to deal with. So yeah, so on my way home from that experience and finding out that, I packed all my stuff up in this little Geo Metro that we had, and I drove 4,000 miles back home.
It's your first marriage?
And that was my first marriage, and that lasted 28 days. So yeah. So that was a rough experience, and I want to just backtrack because when I was younger, because my life was so out of control, I was really suicidal, and I tried to take my life when I was like 13. Okay. So when this happened, I had that low again, you know what I mean? So I could tell that when I was driving home, I wanted to just drive into every oncoming semi that was driving by because, when you're in love, you think, because you're young, you're young, dude, you're young, that was maybe my second really, relationship, because I met a girl when I was 14, 15, and I stayed with her all through till I was about 20. And
Oh, wow.
I decided that I needed to experience other women. And that's, what guys do and people do with that experience. But, I felt like at the time I really blew a good relationship with a really good person, so, but that's life, so.
Mistakes that we make.
But I learned, and just dealing with that really helped me become a stronger person because, dealing with relationships, toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm doing drugs with this girl. Like, we're doing,
So you're saying we're doing drugs?
Yeah, we're doing acid. We're smoking weed all the time. We're like drinking. She's a party girl. She was, one of those Harley Davidson models and stuff.
Okay.
So those were all red flags that I didn't see when I was 22, 23, right?
No.
But when I'm 52 now, I see all the red flags.
Yep.
So I'll be able to help my daughters and son navigate a little bit better of the characters that may creep up in their lives. So
it's a good thing that you with those situations. That way you can teach your kids,
for sure,
the do's and don'ts of life.
And that's a great part about being older now is because I used to be not resentful or not regret. I didn't regret. I had so many regrets before before the kids. So I had all these regrets, and I was like, and eventually when I, got to the place where I got sober, I realized that these experiences are great. You know what I mean? And I'm able to help other people, and I'm able to use it in a positive manner. And it's not really a waste if I can save one or two people, a lifetime of misery because they can't get out of their own way. You know what I mean? Because it's all about me versus me. We got to get out of our own way. We're our own worst enemies, So
going back when you say now that you're sober, at what point in your life you realized that your addiction was a problem?
I really, I always cleaned up well. So my life, I hit so many rock bottoms, dude. You know what I mean? I thought this was the worst, but the worst of the worst, and it just keeps getting worse. It's but I clean up. I get a new girl, get a new job, get a new place, and I'd be like, I can do a couple Roxy's on the weekend, or, I could do some meth or whatever, and drink and hang out, do some Xanax, whatever I was into at that time, which was when people ask you what your drug of choice was, it was more for me. I just liked doing more because I didn't like myself. So it wasn't really the drugs, but it was just me not liking myself. And, I've lied to myself more than anybody in the whole world, right?
That.
So
yeah.
So it's hard to believe that, I finally did have the willingness to get sober, but I was always lying to myself. I don't know how many times, Eric, that I went to AA or NA and I met a new drug dealer, or I would sit in the parking lot just to make my girl happy because she would drive by and she'd go, "Oh, I'm so proud of," and I bring home a month chip that I was only there. You know what I mean? I just wasn't, because I didn't have enough. You know what I'm saying? I listened to this podcast the other day, and the guy said, if you're always complaining about being broke and you're still broke, then you're probably used to being broke and you've accepted it. You know what I mean? So so it's really just a mindset. So this went on for 20, almost 30 years, and
wow.
I started, so let's go to when I moved to Florida.
Yep.
In 2000, I decided I'm getting away from the drugs. I'm going to do a geographical move. And unfortunately, I take myself with me, on these moves. And
you have to.
And when I moved to Florida, I really got messed up because I found pain pills and all kinds of drugs that I didn't realize were existing. You know what I mean here. So, so I moved to Florida. I wanted to be a bodybuilder and have a gym, own my own gym, and be a personal trainer. That was my goal. And moved to Florida and became a trainer and owned a gym and was very successful. But I also started doing meth. And and at first I thought, I can do this. I got so much energy. I was training 12 people a day. I was doing 30-minute sessions. So, I was just doing intense 30-minute sessions, hitting about 12 to 14 people a day. I was just really killing it. But eventually the drug bit me and I just couldn't stop using. And, man, I met my second wife, and she was a bodybuilder, and, she was bulimic, and she hired me as a trainer, and we just hit it off. We had this chemistry. She's just a super nice person, and, really grateful for that experience in life with her, and, but yeah, I was just doing a lot of like meth and just I was really out of control.
So with the meth, where were you? How were you introduced to meth?
So I lived in this mother-in-law apartment,
Okay.
and this lady that I knew, she worked with my wife, and they were bartenders. And one time I was just telling her, she was over talking to me and my friend or whatever, and she said, I was telling her I was really tired. She goes, "Hey, try this." And she had this ice from California, and I was like, "Ah." She goes, just snort a little bump, and So, I did that, and I was up for like 16 hours, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then I met some people in town that had it, not as good quality as that, but And then I met this girl, and she told me that I should be taking it IVly. I should be ejecting it, and I was never into like injecting needles, but into my veins. I did steroids at a young age, which I kind of skipped that whole like childhood.
Yeah.
But with the bodybuilding, I was on a ton of drugs when I was young.
And when you started doing steroids?
I was like 15. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and I totally tell kids all the time, don't take drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to take drugs at 15. You don't need to take drugs at 20 or 25 or 30. Wait till your testosterone level, needs to be.
What were you taking at that?
So we lived in this community, and they had a horse racing kind of, it was like all horse racing, dude.
Yeah.
So I was taking veterinarian steroids at such that age where you're going through puberty. Wow. So, dude, we were so big. Like, we were like in high school, me and this one guy were walking around like 240, and that was kind of unheard of,
Yeah.
So between the two high schools, we were known as like juice bags. That's what people would call us. Basically.
They weren't
Zits all over us. There's like just so strong. My friend was so strong, dude. He could like shoulder press 4 plates.
Wow.
He was like 18, 19, but he looked like his blood pressure was going to blow his head off,
Bet.
So yeah, setting that off wasn't a good idea.
So you can see that kind of addictive behavior you had from being 11 years old, starting with alcohol. Then you said you wanted more.
Yeah.
So you went with the steroids, and then from there, adulthood with the meth. So now you're an adult and you're taking meth. I heard every day.
Yes, every day for 7 years straight. I had
every day.
A relationship with the meth monster, man, for 7 years. And how I beat it is I started doing pain pills. Like, so I never really beat, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just switched drugs, but it got me off. And it's so crazy. The day I went to go grab some meth, they busted the lady I was at, and they had tons of footage of me there because I was there every morning. I mean, I was like begging her to like, answer my calls. It was just so crazy.
That bad.
I was so out of control, dude. I would just be like up all night waiting for this girl. I would text her thousands of times, like just trying to get her up, because she was sleeping all day. And
So that time, I got you over, but during that time period that you were that you were doing meth, were you married?
Yeah, I was married to my second wife.
Okay.
I got married to her, and at the like, and this is all like I laugh because it's good to laugh it off, but this embarrassing situations. I'm not proud of doing this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, so people out there just know that, I'm just sharing this so you're not that friggin' kind of, horrible person to do that to people, saying
a little maturity.
For sure. So. But like, the wedding night, I was high on meth, it was just out of control. I couldn't stop using. And, her parents just hated me, of course, because, they notice, so, but so I was married. I was trying to have a relationship with her, and it made me so crazy, dude. Like, I tried to have this relationship with her, and then I said to her, let's break up and see other people, so that, because we weren't getting along, but I was so high on meth, and it made me a sexual deviant, man. It made me like just watch porn all the time. It goes hand in hand. Like, as I got older and realized all the dopamines in your brain and shit, it all hits the same level, and
that more factor.
Yeah, dude, it was just more and more, and I was in a real bad place in my life, man. I was a real scumbag, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was just like, didn't know who I was. I was just
how old were you?
Wasting away. I was 30. I was in my 30s, so probably like early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. 30, 33, 33,
Still early
34.
30s,
Yeah. Yeah.
early
So
30s.
yeah. And so yeah, I'm trying to run a gym. I bought a gym. This guy I was working for, he ended up moving. I just stayed there, kept like a lot of clients, had a real successful business, but I was so tweaked out every day, man. I was in the bathroom, shooting meth every day, 5-6 times a day in my legs because I didn't want to shoot in my arms. I just was shooting into my veins and stuff in my feet, my legs. And
Ever interfere with work at all?
of course, dude, I was out of control.
Yeah, I
like,
was gonna say.
like people like, it's funny. I talk to some clients now, because I still, have friendships with these people. And, because I had clients, man, for like, 8-9 years, like, you know what I mean? Like
he knew.
they stayed with me.
Yeah, and it still came.
Yeah. They had their problems too,
Yeah.
but some of them didn't even, like one guy was telling me, I didn't know you were that fucked up. I was like, dude, because he probably just, because he was busy with his life, came and trained hard and then kind of disappeared. So maybe I could keep it together at noon when he was training, you know what I mean? Who knows? But
it makes sense though.
First thing in the morning, when I'm tweaked out and I'm like, trying to get it together. And half the time I was missing work. And one time I got arrested at my job. I was spotting a client doing push downs for triceps, and the cops came in and arrested me for.
What for?
Had so me when I had that bright idea about me and my wife seeing other people, I met this girl, and she ended up being a real crazy lady, and she said that she was pregnant with my baby, and that I assaulted her, and so I had a domestic strangulation on a pregnant lady. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Wow.
But I was really lucky. I was training a judge, and we nipped that right in the butt. She was lying about this whole situation, and we cleared it up right away because we were going to press charges against her, and she just, but she was just a crazy lady. She stole my dog, stole all my clothes. I had a little yellow pit bull. She stole that. And then, like, I'm all messed up on meth, and I'm dealing with this stuff. So I look crazy, too. So it's like, you know what I mean? It doesn't help my story, you know what I mean? Like, but I met this crazy lady, and she's so crazy, dude, that my wife today, we, like, looked her up a few years ago, and she preys on military men. That's what she does. She preys on military men, and then she tries to get into their, like, especially with someone with disabilities and stuff. That's how so she's known we've seen her on some of these forums, and they're talking about her. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, real crazy. So I got to experience that. So one time I came home, and all my clothes that I was wearing, all of it was in the friggin' hot tub with bleach. She just crushed all my clothes and broke into my house.
So were both of you addicts at that moment?
What's that?
Both of you were addicts?
She's just crazy, dude. I would like to say that she was an addict, but she's just a crazy girl. But excuse me, that's who you bring into your life when you're doing drugs. So it's my fault, you know what I mean? So I met this crazy lady with a big Jesus tattoo on her back, like, like all the red flags I should have known, but, because I was high, I didn't know it. But I could have lost my life, dude. And when I was in jail, it's so embarrassing. And so I get arrested at the gym. Me and my wife own. I'm from my girlfriend that I'm dating, and my wife has to bail me out of jail. Like, it's so crazy, dude. And then the girl leaves me all these voicemails saying that she was sorry. She only wanted me to do community hours. And I'm like, dude, that's when you get arrested and you're sentenced. That's your sentence. Like, you're not trying to teach me a lesson. So all these messages just worked in my favor.
Okay.
So everything was dropped. But, dude, I met a guy in there that was in there. He did the same thing. Him and his old lady got in a fight. He's still with her. He's doing 15 years, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a joke. So,
and how long you were in jail?
I was just in there for I think it was like 3 or 4 days, just to, that put in population, and then I got bonded out.
Okay.
And got it straightened out. But yeah, so those were just crazy decisions I was making because I was so messed up on meth. And I don't know, like, it just made me this, like, always thinking about sex all the time. So eventually I lost, basically I didn't lose anything. I gave it all away. I hate when people say they lost stuff. So I gave it all away. Yeah. And I also, at that time, went back to the gym that I had worked at. And I met this trainer, and he was a big pill head on pain pills. And I started doing Nubane, which is an injectable painkiller, which, a lot of bodybuilders were taking it in like the 90s because it would make them train harder and not have the burn and stuff. So you could really, really crush it and not feel that. Yeah. But I was using it to kind of get high off of it, you know. It felt great working out, but, you know, and then, of course, your tolerance is really out of this world with that. And you're doing a bottle a day almost. It's just you're picking your, you know, basically shooting yourself all the time with this. So,
and how old are you when you're doing this?
I'm in my late 30s. So I'm like 36, and I'm off the meth. But you know, my life is kind of out of control. Like I gave my gym away. I kind of went back to where I was doing, and then I was just doing another substance.
You still married?
And I was still married at this point. She was still holding on, and then eventually she had enough because we were separated, and then I ended up being with this girl that she didn't like, and so I woke up one day and my truck was gone because it was in her name. So I was like, she was no, she was like, I want to get her away from this crazy guy. He's going to ruin my credit and my whole life, and she made a great choice, and you know, and I'm so happy for her, you know, that now she has children and has a great life, married. So I'm just grateful that she, you know, has that now because, you know, it's embarrassing when you hurt other people and you ruin their lives at that time. You know, it's really stressful for them, and you don't realize that because you're so messed up on your own stuff.
You don't think about those things at the moment.
No,
being selfish. You're just thinking about getting high, and
that would keep me from getting sober for years. The guilt after like a week or two, I would be guilty. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that to this person.
I feel relapse because of guilt.
I did all the time. I could never get sober. I couldn't get over myself. And I kept going to meetings, and I had clients in the program, and I was like, you guys are losers. Like, I'm not that far gone. And meanwhile, I'm like just out of control, spiraling out of control, you know?
So you're saying that, you know, you couldn't get over yourself. So at this point, how long have you been sober?
Right now, I've been sober since 2014. So 10 years.
So at what point you said it's enough?
Okay, so like I met my first wife. Okay, so my last wife, my third wife. Sorry, I'm all over the place. So I met her, Sarah, and we've been together for 14 years, man. She's my ride or die. Like, she's amazing. I met her. I just got out of jail. I was homeless. I was living in a storage unit on North Street.
Is the first time or second time out of jail?
This is the second time, yeah.
Okay.
So I was in there for domestic. I was in a relationship. My last girl that I was with, we were doing drugs. She was a really beautiful girl and very promiscuous. And she got into doing like, you know, guys would give her money to go hang out for the weekend, you know. So you know what that's all about. So I was battling through that and trying to hang out with her and doing drugs, and we got in a huge fight. She would smack me around and punch me, and it just got to the point where, you know, the cops were called too many times, and eventually I was the one that, you know, got in trouble. And you know, I ended up talking to her, trying to like make amends, and I broke the no contact, so I ended up staying in for like 4 months with no bond. And at the time, my paperwork was expired from Canada, so I had an ICE hold on me right after that experience, so it wasn't looking good for me at all, and I was totally homeless. You know, all my stuff was gone. Like, you know, I had nothing. I was basically like living out of my 1998 Ford Ranger at the time.
You're still in Florida?
And I'm still, I'm in Florida, the whole time. So, so at that point, I thought my life was over, right? And but I ended up going to jail. I ended up pleading, you know, to a stalking charge, I think it was, or it was a simple battery. That's what it was. So anyway, I got time served. So I did like 4 months or whatever. So then I went to immigration jail, and it wasn't looking good there because there was guys in there fighting their case for like 7-8 years. So I was like, dude, I can't live in here, like, and I can't go back to Canada. I don't know any, like.
Yeah, how long were you there?
I was in immigration jail for 2 months, and then finally I got bonded out, and I got an attorney, and I was able to, you know, fight the case. and then get my paperwork straightened away after I met my wife. But I still was able to use it from my second marriage, where I got basically all my citizenship stuff through her. So, but yeah, I was kind of real, because I'm down there. I mean, in immigration, there's MS-13 gang, like, you know what I mean? There's people all over the place there. There's no, guys in red and guys in, like, everybody's playing soccer together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I met some really, really shady characters there that weren't, that were in there and trying to fight their case to get back to their homeland,
Oh.
So that experience was really it really woke me up. But I came, I had one friend left, and so he picked me up. So anyway, I ended up, he had an apartment in this storage unit, basically a one bedroom with a kind of a little space to have a bed or whatever. So I stayed there with him for a month, and like I said, I clean up well, man. Every time I'm like, I just get out of jail, and I meet Sarah, and we ended up basically, meeting and just hanging out, right from day one, and we've just been together ever since, So it was really crazy, because I was really out of shape. I was a loser, had no job. I had an ankle monitor on because I had a secure. That was part of my probation. Was I was banned from Indian River County, and so I had this ankle monitor on, and I just was truthful with her when I met her, and she just kind of got out of a divorce, and we just were there for each other, and she really helped me develop as a man. You know what I mean? And I was 39 when I met her, and my life changed dramatically from that point. But I wasn't doing drugs, just smoking weed, but I never really had a problem with weed. Like, I don't consider that, so like, that's for me, like, I don't consider that. Some people call it the gateway drug, whatever. I smoke weed now, and
I smoke with myself.
I don't have a problem with going out and wanting to do meth and Roxy's, like,
that's a whole different.
Yeah. So, and it's all legal, I go to a doctor. So it's, so the whole thing is when I met her, I was kind of still, just not in a good place. And
so, Craig, let me ask you this. At one point in your life, you said to yourself, this is enough. I need to make a change in your life. How was that?
So I met my wife and my third wife, and we got married right away. And we got married, we met in September, the end of September, 1st of October, and then we got married in May.
What year?
2011.
Okay.
Yeah, so we met in 2010 of, it was September, and we dated, and then 2011, we got married, and then I was training people and kind of just still focusing on bodybuilding, so she was kind of just working and taking care of there was no pressure, I was trying to get my life organized back from, being in jail and kind of going through all that experience. So, so yeah, I was doing really good, man. And then periodically I met this person at the gym, this guy, and, he was telling me he takes Adderall and stuff. So anyway, I ended up starting to take Adderall, and I got right back into that realm again with the methamphetamines. And then I ended up, this same guy was like, he goes, I can get the real stuff. And, eventually I ended up getting that as well. So I ended up doing a couple weekends of doing, shooting up again. And it just got out of control. So I ended up packing up a few things, and my plan was I was just going to kill myself. I was just going to OD and kill myself, whatever. And I had a bunch of pills. I had a bunch of meth, and I went to this hotel room in basically on the beach in Daytona, sort of South Daytona.
Okay.
Across from a strip club, of all places to be around, right? So, but so yeah, I was just in this hotel room. Shut my phone off, and I just got totally messed up. And I told myself I had X amount of dollars. I had like $4,000. I was just going to blow it. And then I was just going to end up, killing myself. That's what I was going to do. And I got to that last day, my wife's, of course, panicking. So I just didn't have enough drugs to kill myself, so I knew I had a gun in the safe. And so I lied to her, sort of told her a story. Hey, I would like to meet you at this park. And while she was going to go to this park, I was going to dip home, get in my safe, and grab our gun. And I was just going to be done with life. And so that's really the desperation part right there. When I went home, of course, she took all the guns because she's a smart lady. So yeah, like, so that saved my life. And after that moment, I was like, there's got to be more to life than this. And I told her I wanted to come home, and I came home, and then I went right to AA the next day, and I went there for 4 years, and got really involved in the program. And at that moment, I just put on my hand and said, hey, I'm Craig. I'm an alcoholic addict, and I need help. And I really did need help, because I had no tools. There's no tools in my workshop. What I was doing wasn't working anymore, quite obviously,
It is, it's that's a powerful moment right there, because you realize that we all do that. We think we're strong people, so we think if we're strong, we can do whatever we is in front of us.
Yeah, man.
But it takes a village to, raise a child.
Yeah.
Or however you say it.
No, you're absolutely right.
You
It's like one of those things where you just finally had enough, man.
Yeah.
You're ready to let go, because you're just, all my life, man, I was doing drugs, drinking, and I could never stop. Like, I could never stop. And then when I was going to meetings and stuff, they're telling me I have some kind of allergy or whatever, right? And like, so, I don't know. At that point, I'm like, maybe I do have this allergy, like I'm allergic to whatever. But I don't have that opinion now, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand that, I understand that it wasn't the drugs that was the problem. It was me.
Correct.
I didn't like myself. And I was using whatever I could to get rid of that, to just block out me and that voice in my head that was telling me to better myself. You know what I mean? Like, I hated myself. I hated what happened in my life. I hated that my parents didn't love me. I hated that my dad wasn't there for any sporting events all my life. I never had anyone there to game. I never had any support from anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it just really took its toll on my whole life. All my life I hated people that had family. I spent so many Christmases by myself in, 1-bedroom apartments in the hood by myself, alone, callous to the world. You know what I'm saying? So it just gave me this attitude where it's like, basically fuck the world was my motto at that time. And I didn't have anything. I was just living that kind of life that I didn't care about any kind of repercussions or, what was happening, because I just gave up on myself, because I was playing that victim of my story. And that's when I realized, once I got sober and I had probably a year, like right away after like 3 months, I started going to detox.
Okay.
And I started bringing the message of hope down there, because those people were green, right? They were just in detox. And I would bring meetings down there. I never missed a meeting for like probably a year. And it was Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, dude. And I would start off the meeting and I would say, hey, do you think I want to be here this early? And I would yell, hell yeah, I do. And I'd wake everybody up and they would start paying attention to me. And I would show them how much passion I had at the time for being sober. I had a whole new life, dude, because I woke up. I would start my day off with 2 or 3 Roxys, you know what I mean? Or shoot a friggin' half a gram of meth, or, just I had to always be on something. And I didn't know how to figure out life without a drug.
One thing I want to circle back to, as you just mentioned how much you love life, and I can see it. The way you talk about it is clearly that you're a person who enjoys living today. But one thing I want to touch into is that moment when you decided to take your life away. Was it the guilt of relapsing that made you push that over that line, or was it the fact that you just had enough, or all those repeated times of trying and not getting a result that you wanted?
It was a kind of a combination of a few different things, but that for sure, the guilt the embarrassment, disappointing my wife, and just everything was the same story, just different person. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't get out of my way, and I was like done. And I finally had the nerve to do it. You know what I mean? I really had the nerve to do it. If she didn't had removed the guns, and I wouldn't be here sitting here. I know that for a fact, because I was done with life and I had it planned and I wasn't coming back. And I'm glad that moment happened, because for that brief second, it made me realize how much she cared about me, for one. And then I realized that, I mean, I don't want to live my life like this, man. No. I was just in so much pain.
Something I can relate to in that same subject is that, somebody like myself who has dealt with suicidal ideation before and even attempts in the past, the way I saw it was more about I gave up. And one day I was just looking at myself in the mirror and said, you went through all these things in life and you survived. And you're going to give up just like that? I have so many moments in my life that I almost died, either with my own hand or the enemy's hand or a car accident. And you survive all those things for you to just not enjoy life after that. So, but it was a hard moment for me to say that to myself and see the reaction in the mirror of the man I was talking to. So, it's it's stronger for me, in my opinion. It takes a stronger person to realize that that's not an outlet. That's not. I think that's a moment that you realize that's not the answer, because we're being selfish at that moment. We're being selfish because they think our pain is bigger than anybody else's. But we don't think about the fact that if we do leave, the pain we're going to cause of people that love us. And people don't even realize that they care about us. So it's a lot of things going on at the moment that we're not really thinking about, because we're just focusing on one thing in the moment to think that's the end of the world.
Because we're too selfish, and there's a saying that I heard that, I'm not that important, but I'm all that I think about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just, you just only think about yourself at that time because you're just so fed up with you. You know what I mean? I was so fed up with me. I didn't like me. I didn't like the person I was. I looked at myself in the mirror at that moment. I came home and I was like, who the fuck are you, man? You know what I mean? Like, who are you?
And the solution was actually not to go that route. It's actually make a change in your life. Because, even if you do, let's say you went through it, that person never had a chance to change.
Yep.
So you never had that moment of giving yourself a chance to do better because you decided to take the route.
And what I learned too is, like, because I was questioning stuff like, I watched my old man drink every night, growing up, and, my mom out of control with stuff, and, and why did I get right in there? I'm not even bloodly related to these people. I'm adopted, right? But what I learned later on in life is you pass your trauma on to your kids, especially at those really young ages between like 1 and 5. Like, those are really dramatic ages. And when your dad's thinking about trying to kill you or do crazy stuff to you, and your mom's telling you all kinds of craziness at that young age, it's just so crazy for another kid to kind of process that at such a young age. And it's just, later on in life, you just adapt to these qualities, and the way you think, your mindset is all boohoo me. Like,
you said, you have no tools to work with.
Exactly.
Parenting is a huge thing in the child's upbringing. Depending how it's being parented or being raised, or the environment that they're around. This. It will shape a person.
Yes.
So negatively or positively.
And now I look at it as they did the best they could do, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's always a saying that you're going to mess up your kids' lives because you're going to, you know what I mean? But thing is you try to be a good example. And now that I've learned from my parents' mistakes and my mistakes as a young man, and even in middle age, the mistakes I've made, now I can pass these on to my kids, because, when you go through an addiction in a low point in your life where you want to take your own life, it's that low, you're that lonely, you're that depressed. That's an awful place to be, but it's sure a good place to start sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when you have nothing, it's nothing but up, and I just really was so motivated to get sober, and I just did everything I could. I went to 5 meetings a day. I did everything I was told. I got a sponsor. I was honest with another man, told him all my dirt, every secret, every clause, every skeleton, everything. I got so sick doing my 4-step because it was just so emotional, man, because I had all that stuff beat it up inside. I didn't tell people I got molested. I didn't tell people the abuse, getting beat up by boyfriends and humiliated. I didn't tell people that. I didn't want to share that stuff with anybody because I was embarrassed.
You didn't know how to react because you have that victim's like guilt.
And judging, you wonder if someone's going to judge you. But this guy I met, man, he was just like the same kind of guy like me, you know, had the same problems as me, and he was just trying to be sober, and this was helping him out. And I realized that later on. And you know, AA was really amazing. It was an amazing journey for me. I spent 4 years there, but that got me away from drugs, but it didn't make me like I wasn't facing the real problem, which was me. And meetings to me, and I just feel like everything's a cult anyway. Like,
what do you mean by the real problem is you?
Well, it was me. I'm the problem. I'm the one that chose to do the drugs. Correct. Why did I do that? Because I was playing a victim. Why was I listening to myself go, oh, you never get a break, and why does that girl always treat you this way? Or because you're not acting in a certain way. You're not conducting yourself in a certain manner. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not sleeping well. You're not eating well. You think you're training, but you're really not training. You're just fucking around, dude. And that's what I was doing for like years of my life. You know, and
do you think that and do you think that will be considered an excuse for your behavior? I mean, a question like, you know.
Well, that's what people would use. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I would do. I would use that as an excuse. And it's not an excuse. Everybody has a story, man. Mine's not the worst. I've heard many more horrific stories than mine. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is we all have to get to that point in our lives where we are tired of doing, like they say that definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. But I was doing the same thing over and over again, knowing the result. I knew. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew. Like you could tell me, hey man, this is bad for your health or what.
Oh, I know.
Like, dude, I know this. You know what I mean? You're not motivating me. You know what I mean?
It goes by choice.
Yes.
It is your choice at the end.
But I didn't like me. I didn't like me. I didn't like me at all. I didn't like who I was. I had low self-esteem. You know, I just didn't like who I was. And I used drugs to kind of get rid of that and build myself up and maybe, you know, kind of build my ego up so that I could, you know, talk to people and try to care. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this. What was so bad about you that you hated yourself that bad?
I didn't know how to love myself.
Okay.
I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to appreciate things. I didn't know how to have gratitude. I didn't know how to care about a human being. My wife has taught me, and through having kids, have taught me how to love unconditionally and not expect anything back, you know. I was the type of guy, if I say good morning to you and you didn't say good morning to me, I'd be like, screw that guy. I'm never talking to that guy again. Because I was always that victim, because I never cared about myself, because I was always going, my dad didn't love me. He treated me like shit. My mom didn't really care about me. I played that victim card so much. And that's why I'm very adamant when people play that victim card, and I tell people, don't be a victim of your story, man. Save these years of your life and get out of your own way. And when you can get out of your own way, you do the things you don't like to do. All the stuff you don't like to do, like making your bed and all that stuff, do it. Do everything you say you don't want to do and make it non-negotiable. Those you know, self-discipline, those baseline discipline things. You know what I'm saying? Like getting up for work and doing all that stuff. Don't make excuses for yourself.
There's all choices, you know. And going back to what you said about your parents, that was their choice not to do the right thing. You know, then it's our choice to either, you know, eventually, because it takes time to heal. It takes time to process. It's not like an overnight thing. But we choose to either to stay as a victim or not. You know, if you simplify life, it's all about choices. Either you do or you don't. And each path has their own consequences. So if we don't, then we have the path of destruction. when we do realize that we're important people, that we matter in his life, it's because everyone doesn't love you or doesn't care about you. It doesn't mean that you have 10 people behind you that care about you. It's because one person doesn't like you doesn't mean the world. There's all people out there that care about us. But if you think about it, people who have these situations or these problems with suicidal ideation have the same train of thinking. I'm not worth anything. Nobody cares about me. Well, this happened to me, therefore I'm trash. And it's all lies.
Yep, it's all lies. They're imaginary evils that you put in your mind, and you just play that tape over again. Like, it's negative self-talk, and I'm all about calling myself out if I sleep through my alarm. Or,
that's different. Being accountable.
Yeah,
being accountable.
So, but the other was just a bunch of me just making excuses up for my behaviors. And I was just making poor choices, and I never had any direction. I was a kid that was always out on my own. I never had any supervision. I grew up friggin' running the roads. You know what I'm saying? Back in those days, we weren't, there's no TVs hanging out. You're just running the roads, with no money, and you know what I mean? But
now, look at yourself right now. You're a pro arm wrestler. You're a great dad. I've met your kids, and they're really great kids. You can tell they're well-mannered. They have good values, and it goes to the parents. So despite all that in your life, you were able to have the life that you always deserved. Do you agree?
It's been a different life, so for sure, I didn't expect to have kids, and I can't have kids, and I like to just, segue into that part of this story because it's the most important part of my life, saying being a dad is such an amazing, it's so amazing, dude. I can't explain to you how amazing it is. And it doesn't matter that I'm not bloodly related to these kids because they're my kids, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? I met my son when he was 3. He thinks I'm his real dad. We've had the conversation. They know they don't.
Who raises you, not who makes you.
And they don't care. Yeah. They don't care because they're just happy to be here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But so, when I got sober a couple years, I wanted to open up a group home. I was very adamant on getting back to the community, helping kids. I did a lot of volunteer work with the juvenile justice. I did some work with them for a couple years, and I really wanted to help kids. I wanted to help the community, and my wife is a behavior analyst, so she works for in that child welfare environment. So we were taking this foster care course. It was like a 6-week course. It was one of these licenses that you had to have to work around children and stuff. And she was had clients at her friend's, was a foster mom that was putting on this event and this workshop. And one day she was like, you guys would be awesome with these 3 kids I have. She just ended up, they were there for probably almost 2 years going on. Oh, wow. C was there when he was probably 1.5. He was really small. Oh. And really young, I should say. And the girls were 5 and 6, I think, at the time. Maybe a little younger, 4 and 5. So they're a year apart. But, at this point, I'm 46. I'm I didn't have plans on being a dad, At this point, I knew I couldn't, have kids naturally because of the, steroids and all the choices I made, with my reproduction system. And that's another thing why I'm adamant to kids is don't ruin that at a young age.
Really important.
You don't need to do that. So I met these kids and, man, I just fell totally in love with them, and
a great kid.
I knew that was my, that was going to be my meaning of life. That was my purpose. And when I met them, it was just life-changing, you know what I mean? Really life-changing. I mean, I get a little emotional just talking about it now because I love these people so much, dude. I mean, they're my people. I love my family. I would die for my family. It's just amazing that I can actually say that I love someone more than, you know what I mean? I care about myself. It's just crazy. Yeah. And I'm responsible for these kids, you know what I mean? So I take that job real seriously.
I can tell.
So yeah, so I met them, and it's kind of like we just hit it off, and they came from addiction, and their mom had passed away. I mean, it was a struggle. They really didn't know their dad. He was a gangbanger. It was all over the state, like and not even quite sure if it's the same dad for all of them. So yeah, man, we just decided we were going to adopt these kids, and it was crazy, dude. It was crazy. The first year, I was so overwhelmed, man.
Can't imagine.
I didn't think I was going to make it, to be honest with you, because
it's tough.
Dude, it's like he was, C was 3.5, and the girls were 6 and 7, and not that they were a handful, but they were, just kids.
No,
and
yeah.
I was freaking out, dude, because I can barely take care of myself. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, how am I going to take care of these other humans now?
Yeah, they depend on you, solely on you.
And I was really lost and stressed, and I couldn't figure it out. I was really nervous. And, one day I read this book, and it was a life-changing experience, and has nothing to do with like what I'm interested in, but it's like Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. And Michael Singer was this guy that just was talking about this voice in his head, and that how he controlled this voice that's telling you, when someone asks you to do something, you're like, I don't have time for that, and you're making excuses, that thing. So anyway, it's just a book about how to deal with that. And I thought I was crazy all my life with the voice in my head telling me, you know what I mean? Like, that's your, what I believe is like your conscience, basically. Some people want to say it's the authentic voice of God or whatever it is, but it's you. You know what I mean? It's you. So, so it was really life-changing. After I listened to this book, I was like, really was able to realize that I don't need to take myself so seriously, and that I do have time, and I can live life from abundance, and I do have time to do other things. And, it really helped me have a lot of self-reflection at the time.
That's great.
And then I decided that I was going to experiment a little bit with some psychedelics, and I did a few sessions with DMT and a few sessions with mushrooms, and it was life-changing, and changed my life, and I let go of everything in life, and I just, I'm just so grateful for these experiences that I had, and I was really able to change my perspective on life, and it made me realize that I am just a little speck in this world, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just not that important to get upset about something you
You're
say.
totally
So
right.
yeah, like your feelings, you know what I'm saying? So I learned how to check my feelings, and I don't know, man, those medicines just help open a whole realm of thinking, and it's been here ever since for the last like 5 or 6 years. And it's really shown me that I can get out of my own way now. You know what I mean?
That's great. And you mentioned about that first year with your kids now. So after that first year, you realized, this is something I want to do the rest of my life. Because
like I had there's no turning back. Right?
Yeah, it happened and everything.
No, I asked my wife, I'm like, can you unadopt? Like, and she's like, listen, and it's. No, she has 3 kids from her first marriage, and they're all older now, so it's a little different dynamic for her. She knows how to raise kids. I don't know how to raise kids, but now I do.
You're learning.
Now I do.
Yeah.
I do to where I'm at now in this stage.
Yeah, I see you at the academy, and you're a great dad.
I appreciate that, but I just want to build assets, and my whole goal in life is to make sure that they have a good life. And that's what I realized, that when you get out of your own way, and when you don't take yourself so seriously, you're able to really focus on the most important things in life, and really be appreciative of the little things.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
sometimes we take for granted the smaller things in life.
Yeah. And we can really, flip off at the mouth. I have a bad temper. I can really flip off my mouth, and I've really learned how to control that through not taking myself so seriously.
Yeah.
And it's really taught me a lot. And and I'm not saying people have to go and take psychedelics and have these experiences, but for me at the time, I was looking for some answers, and I had some experiences with them when I was younger, and I just did a lot of research and a lot of reading and a lot of expanding my mind about wanting to just change my thought process. Yeah. And it just really opened a whole...
And nowadays, so much data.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's not like
for
10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
Exactly.
So many things we can do today that helps. Even the FDA is working on it as we speak. And
so grateful for that, because they do help a lot of people. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to, at the end of my journey now at 52, I'm able to really appreciate life more and more. And, the new struggles with different things and stuff, it's just, it's part of life now. And I don't try to abandon those. I try to face them.
Yeah, exactly. How you deal with them is different now. Because before, when we have a good baseline in life, any difficulty that comes in our lives, we scramble. And we do, we're compulsive, and now you're, being microdosing and all these things has a benefit because you're able to slow down your thought process and think through things and not like act on impulsivity that we used to.
I feel like it makes me more aware of myself, and then I'm like, I'm super, more kind and just more considerate because I'm more aware of that. So. But I'll tell you, having kids really makes you a better person, it really does. It made me such a better man, and I'm really grateful for that. And just learning and watching them grow and teaching them about different things. And it's such an amazing journey to be able to experience that with another human being, and I'm just grateful because I remember when I was young, sometimes I'd be like looking at the beach and seeing a dad with his son on the beach. And I really kind of wanted to have that experience one day. And then, of course, I was.
And now you do.
Now I do. So it's like, it's grateful. I'm grateful for that.
Your son is a great kid. Like, he's 11 now?
Yeah, he just turned 11. And we did the 80 cc's I was telling you before we got on air. And, he got smashed, but he learned about adversity, and he learned about, losing and how to cope with it. And I'm really proud of him. He didn't pout. He didn't,
Well, you got a good example because you're also a pro
Yes, and it was funny because a couple weeks ago, I decided to take my kids to the first time watching me arm wrestle.
Okay.
So I just had a challenge match with a kid, up and coming kid, and I was smashing him. I was up 2-0, and I blew all my energy by, cheering and yelling and acting fool. And I ended up screwing up. I ended up fouling out a couple times, and the guy ended up beating me, and I ended up losing this match that I should have won, and it was really embarrassing. But I went home with them, and I told them, and we laughed about it, and I said, Dad really messed up, huh? And I made a joke out of it, but it was eating me.
But it's healthy, though.
Yeah.
It was with your kids.
Yeah. And I teach them that you got to get right back to training. You got to get right back to the grind. And really the character is built on how you deal with adversity and losing. Because I told them, I go, if you lose and you want to quit because of that, you're going to do that all in everything you do in life. As soon as it gets hard, you're going to quit. So what do you want to do? And he said, I want to learn to get out of those moves. I go, well, that's exactly what I want to hear. And that's what we're going to do.
No, he's good for his age.
So, and it's good to have your kids involved in a sport that's so beneficial, not only physically, but they're able to take care of themselves if anything ever happened. They know how to get out of situations, and it makes them feel more aware, So, and nothing better than kids rolling around with other kids and getting rid of energy, and it's so good for him. It builds so much self-confidence and stuff, and I really love the Academy professor, and we share the same opinion on this place. It's amazing, it's life-changing, and I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah, in comparison, if you think about it, the way you were raised, the environment you were in created your mindset. So now you have your chance to be a dad. Now you're creating an environment for your kids that doesn't create a negative mindset.
Yes.
So you're breaking that pattern in your life.
It's ending with me. I
Correct.
say that to my wife. I said, this addiction, this violence, this abuse, all this ends with me now. And
Good.
I'm going to set the example to my kids, because that's how they make you. They make you better, because I don't eat shitty food with them. We eat healthy. You know, they never see me drink alcohol. Like, they'll never see me messed up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they'll never see me out of control. You know what I mean?
You're doing what that affected you growing up.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to happen.
Never. So learning from those mistakes is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that's kind of circling back to when you asked me, you know, what I didn't like about myself, because I didn't think I had anything to offer the world. And now when you go through those experiences, you realize that you can kind of share your story so you can give people hope. Because, you know, I was once a lost junkie living out of my car, had nothing. And now I have a, beautiful family, kids. I mean, life is amazing. And of course you still have issues, but it's life. But I'm really, every day I'm grateful, and I want to experience each day,
And I'm a firm believer that even though our process sucked, that it shapes who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Some people miss that opportunity to, become great in life. And greatness can be, for you, looks different than my greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Your greatness could be the fact that you're a great dad and you have a great family and you're happy. Whatever causes you peace, for me, that's greatness. And so some people don't take that opportunity in life, and they have that kind of like that fork in the road, and they just don't, they quit.
Yep.
It's too hard.
Yep.
And then they never experienced the true happiness could have been for them.
And the worst thing to do is to be an old man at a nursing home, living your last days going, man, I wish I would have did this.
What if that?
I don't want to be that guy.
I don't want to have any what ifs in my life.
I don't want to have any of that. And when people ask me, like, would I ever change anything? I wouldn't, because I really appreciate where I'm at now.
Correct.
And if I had to change something, I might not be where I'm at.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
It's made me who I am, and it's been broken pieces, but I put them all together myself through the help of other people that were sober, that taught me some tools. And, I was able to utilize those. And, I don't go to meetings, and I don't, belong to any clubs anymore, but it helped me at that time, because
you have a decent life now that can fulfill that.
So I feel
kids,
like,
you have your career as a wrestler.
And plus you're working on yourself,
Correct.
So you know the tools to use. You don't need to go to a meeting and cry about your life. You know what I mean? So
No, those things are good for at a period in our lives.
yeah.
Once you take those tools out of that, and it's meant for you to move on from it, not to depend on it the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I got a kind of a bad taste in my mouth with people getting sober and not living a good life, and that's kind of how I realized that it was more than just the drugs and drinking. It was me as a person. I had to really, really dig deep into myself. So you could still have those addict behaviors, but you're just not drinking, but you're still like chasing women or doing.
Yeah. So what's the whole point?
Yeah, stealing, doing all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not really living your life to the fullest. So,
but it takes a strong person and a committed person to make that change.
For sure, 100%.
So that I commend you, because some people will, like you said, will woe is me, this happened to me, why this happened to me, instead of just thinking about, okay, this happened, I can't control what happened already because it already happened, what now?
Yep.
And sometimes we focus so much on the mess that we don't see what's in front of us.
No, exactly. And that's a great point too, because we do focus on the mess a lot of times, and we don't focus on the lesson that we learned and the things that we can, take and improve our own lives later on, like all these experiences that we've had in our lives, they've really helped us mold us to who we are today. And, we have to learn these lessons in life. And now I hope that I'm able to save my kids the experience of drug abuse and making poor choices, and live in this world that we're living in now. It's a real different times that we're living in compared to when, I was younger and you were younger, so that's the good thing about life's experiences. You can pass them on to your children and help them, live a better life. And I really feel like that's my purpose in life now, is my family, and they inspire me to work hard each day, and I'm really grateful for that. So
on that same note, to kind of wrap up things a little bit, let's say you had the opportunity to tell your 11-year-old self that you're going to go through a lot of difficulties in life, but at the end, it's gonna be okay. Would you if you had the opportunity, what would be your worst to that kid?
So to give him advice on, I think when you're 11, I think you're not able to really mentally understand what you're going through in life, because you're only focused on those little moments. Like the week is a long time when you're 11, so to tell myself about the future, maybe it would give me some hope if I could tell myself that, hey, you're going to go through all these trials and tribulations, but at the end of the day, you're going to be happy in your life. It might be 30 or 40 years later, but
it's all worth it.
But it's all worth it in the end. And I feel like that might have given me a glimmer of hope, because when I was 11 and 12 and 13, that's when you
started drinking,
and I started wanting to not live anymore. So those feelings were like, that was a real low point. So maybe at that point, if I was able to tell myself, hey, it gets better at the end of the day, then maybe I would have been able to navigate a little bit better. But like you said, all these experiences it builds us to who we are today. And
so you have any advice for anybody out there that might be in similar situation that you are in, or a person that's about to go into that?
Don't do drugs. That's a simple analogy. But if you're having a problem with drugs and your life is unmanageable and it's just out of control, you need to get with people that are sober and that can help you learn. It's like a personal trainer. So, and programs, there's so many programs online and stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to have the willingness to want to do it. So you just have to have enough. Because I've had so many people reach out to me over the years through my YouTube or through my social media and asking for help and stuff. And I always ask them, I go, are you willing to do whatever it takes? And some of these people are like thinking that they can drink in a couple months, and you know what I mean? So the advice that I would give people is, don't give up. It can always get better. And don't quit on yourself, man. If you fail and you go back to drinking or doing drugs, that happens. It's part of your story. But I would really try to get with someone that you can relate to, another man if you're a man, or another woman if you're a woman, that you can relate to, that's living a life that you would like to have a part of. And you see them by maybe going to a meeting or getting yourself into a program, or sometimes rehab helps people. And unfortunately, it didn't help me, but, it can help people. And, really just start putting positive affirmations in your mind and try not to feel sorry for yourself, and that's a big deal nowadays. And, get off your phone, really get off your phone, because that can be a lot of issues for people, and especially addicts out there. And just realize that, it can always get better. And I'm here to just share my message of hope, because I know that, at one point in my life, I thought, it was over for me, and I just hung on and I just pushed myself that little bit, and now I'm able to live my life, not addicted to drugs. That's the best thing. I'm not a prisoner to drugs. I'm not earning a living to pay for my drug habit, because at one time I was spending $200 to $300 a week on drugs.
Wow.
And I don't know how I came up with that money, but I was a good hustler, and I just could convince people of all my problems. And that's probably a reason why I was living out of my truck and not paying rent and stuff. So, so those situations. But if your life is like that and it's unmanageable, then you definitely need to get help. And, there's lots of programs out there. And if you need to reach out, you're watching this podcast, you need to reach out, you can, find me on YouTube and, send me a message. I'm always willing to help people out and talk to them and give them advice, because I feel like the worst thing, I wouldn't wish addiction on my worst enemy. No. Not that I have an enemy, but I wouldn't wish, you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
It's very crippling.
It is horrible. It's a horrible. And when I see people, like when I see mugshots of people, and And I can almost smell their pain, dude. It's just like, like when I met you and we started talking, I could tell you had trauma.
Yeah,
Just by, just by
yeah,
talking to you,
yep.
You just have that. And I read this great book called Body Keeps a Score, and it just teaches you about how your body reacts to trauma and how your body holds on to different things and stuff.
We have that commonality. We kind of like feel it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just, and it's good to help other people and to be able to have stories to share so that people can realize that they're not by themselves and not alone, because a lot of times when you're in that midst of addiction, you feel like no one else knows how this feels. It's the worst ever, and you can't get out of it, and you don't know any way of getting out of it, and it's just a prison that you're in with no bars.
And within the guilt and the shame, it's okay to say that you need help.
Yeah.
It's more powerful to accept the fact you need help than being prideful and not get the help. And
pride is definitely a killer on that, because you definitely, it definitely takes a strong person to say, hey, I'm Craig, I need help. And, and you're willing to do whatever to get that help at that time. And then you're able to branch off on, some people just need a couple days, just to put together, and then they can start seeing some clarity, and then they can push another day, because when you're first getting sober, it's really tough those first few days and stuff.
That's the more important part. I was able to quit because it's going to be really difficult, going cold turkey, or your mind's like, it's easier just to get high than just to go through this.
Yes. And if you're doing drugs that make you dope sick, you're going to go through the dope sickness, and then you're going to feel better, and then you're going to go, oh, I can do a couple of these. And
it's not really worth it.
You just go, man, I roller coasted so many times like that, and it's never ending, because you get yourself feeling better, and then your mind is like, oh, I can do this. It's easy.
As human beings, we hate being uncomfortable.
Yes. No, for sure. And that's a good point, because once you step outside your comfort zone, that's where the growth begins, when you're uncomfortable about life. And that's why I think people need to feel uncomfortable with situations. That's why I work out every day. And that's why Jiu-Jitsu is so amazing for that, because it teaches you to be in bad situations and
keep calm.
Yep. And keep calm.
Well, Craig, honestly, thank you for your story. It's been, I knew a little about it because I spoke before, but not to the extent. And thank you for the time for today, sharing all these things. I admire you for the path you have taken. And I'm happy that I brought you to our podcast. I really am. So thank you for your time. And people out there, any social media you want to share? Yeah,
it's just my name, Craig Soubliere, on Instagram. I have a YouTube, Craig Soubliere. That's Soubliere. And man, if you guys want to check out my arm wrestling, I do some mindfulness, just trying to uplift others. And Eric, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been an honor. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Love your show, man. And I told you that when I first watched that first episode. I think that what you're doing is incredible, and it's an honor just to be a part of that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming, honestly. And I know what we have future conversations.
For sure.
So, well, guys, thanks for tuning in on another episode of Beyond Capable. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and until next time.